Story number 1. Meter reading. I was upstairs in the spare bedroom I use as an office when the doorbell rang. It was 2 in the afternoon on a Thursday, overcast like it had been all week, and I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the window I could see a white utility van parked at the curb and a man in a Portland General Electric uniform standing on my porch with a clipboard. I went downstairs and opened the door part way. He was maybe 40, average height, wearing the navy blue work shirt with the company logo and a laminated ID badge clipped to his chest pocket. He smiled apologetically. "Sorry to bother you without notice," he said. "We've had some reports of pressure irregularities with the gas lines in this neighborhood. I need to check your meter to make sure everything's reading correctly." I hesitated. I hadn't received any automated call or email, but that wasn't unusual. The utility company wasn't always great about notifications, and I'd had unscheduled maintenance before. "It's in the basement," I said. "That's fine. Should only take a few minutes." I let him in and led him through the kitchen to the basement door. He followed me down the wooden steps, his boots heavy on each tread. The basement was unfinished, concrete floor and exposed pipes running along the ceiling. The meter was on the far wall near the furnace. He walked over to it and crouched down, setting his clipboard on the floor. I stood near the bottom of the stairs, watching. He pulled a small flashlight from his belt and examined the meter's display, then opened a panel I'd never noticed before. "Do you live here alone?" he asked, not looking up. "My husband works downtown," I said, which wasn't true. I've been divorced for 3 years, but the question made something tighten in my chest. "And you're home most days?" "I work from home. Freelance." He nodded slowly, still focused on the meter. "That's nice. Flexible schedule." I didn't respond. He was taking longer than I expected. He'd been down there for almost 10 minutes, and mostly he seemed to be writing things on his clipboard rather than actually checking anything. The basement felt smaller with him in it. I noticed his cologne then, something sharp and deliberate, too strong for someone who was supposed to be doing manual work. It mixed with the metallic smell of the old pipes and made the air feel thick. He glanced toward the door that led to the garage, a side exit I rarely used. He looked at it longer than made sense, then back at the meter. "Everything look okay?" I asked. "Yeah, readings are fine. Just need to document it." He stood up and brushed off his knees. "You said you're home most days. What about evenings? It varies." "Right." He picked up his clipboard and smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "All set. Thanks for your time." I followed him back upstairs and watched through the front window as he got into the van and drove away. Then I went back to my office and tried to focus on the logo design I'd been working on, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been off. The questions about my schedule, the way he'd looked at the garage door, how long he'd spent down there for what should have been a simple meter check. I told myself I was being paranoid. He'd had the uniform, the badge, the van. Everything had looked legitimate. By 5:30, the light was fading, and I was still at my desk when the doorbell rang again. I went to the upstairs hallway window that overlooks the porch. It was him. Same uniform, same clipboard, but his expression was different now. More urgent. I didn't go downstairs. Instead, I opened the window slightly. "Can I help you?" I called down. He looked up. "I'm sorry to bother you again. I left my multimeter in your basement. I need to grab it real quick. I didn't see anything down there." "It's small. I must have set it down near the furnace. It'll just take a second. I'll look for it and leave it on the porch if I find it." His jaw tightened. "I really need it tonight. I have another job. I'll check after dinner." I closed the window and stepped back, my heart beating faster now. I watched from the side of the frame as he stood there for another moment, then walked off the porch. But he didn't go to his van. He walked along the side of the house toward the gate that led to the backyard. I moved to the bedroom window that faces the side yard. He was trying the gate latch. It was locked, but he spent a long time testing it, pulling at the wood. Then he disappeared toward the back of the house. I went to the back bedroom. From there, I could see him trying the handle of the sliding glass door that opens onto the deck. He cupped his hands against the glass and peered inside, looking into my kitchen. My hands were shaking. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera, zooming in as much as I could. I took 3 photos of him at the back door, then moved to get a shot of the van's license plate from the front window. He was walking back to the van now, slowly, looking up at the windows. I stepped away so he wouldn't see me. The van sat there for another 2 minutes before it finally pulled away. I called Portland General Electric directly, not the emergency line, but the customer service number on my last bill. I had to navigate through several menus before reaching a person. "I need to verify that you sent someone to my address today," I said, and gave her my account number and address. There was a pause while she looked it up. "I'm not showing any service appointments for your address. What was the nature of the visit?" He said he needed to check the gas meter because of pressure irregularities in the neighborhood. Another pause, longer this time. "Ma'am, we didn't dispatch anyone to your neighborhood today. Can you describe what he looked like?" I described him, the uniform, the van, the badge. Her voice changed. "Ma'am, I need you to listen carefully. A uniform matching that description was reported stolen from one of our work sites 2 weeks ago. We sent a notice to local police." "Are you somewhere safe right now?" The question hung in the air. I was standing in my living room, looking at the front door I'd opened for him 5 hours ago. The basement door he'd spent so long examining, the garage entrance he'd kept glancing at. "Yes," I said, though I wasn't sure that was true. She was saying something about sending police to take a report, asking if I could send the photos I'd taken, but I was only half listening. I was thinking about the way he'd tested the back door, the way he'd looked at the garage, how thoroughly he'd learned my schedule, my routine, whether I lived alone. I'm still in the house. The police came and took my statement and the photos. They're increasing patrols in the neighborhood. They told me to keep everything locked, to call immediately if I see the van again. But it's been 4 days now, and I keep thinking about what he wrote on that clipboard while he was in my basement. What he was really looking at, whether he's waiting for something, or whether he already got what he came for. I haven't been sleeping well. Story number 2, interview slot. I stayed late that Friday because I wanted to get ahead on interview prep for Monday. The office had emptied out by 5:30, which was normal for a summer weekend in Austin. Most people were already at happy hour or heading to the lake. I had the entire 14th floor to myself, or so I thought. At 6:03, a man in a charcoal suit knocked on the glass door of our HR suite. I looked up from my laptop, surprised anyone else was still in the building. He was maybe mid-40s, clean-shaven, carrying a leather portfolio, professional. The kind of candidate who looked good on paper. I got up and opened the door. He smiled and extended his hand. "Michael Chen," he said, "I have a 6 o'clock with you." I shook his hand automatically, my brain already scrolling through my calendar. I had no interviews scheduled for today. Monday was packed, but today was supposed to be prep time. "I think there might be a mix-up," I said. "I don't have anything on my calendar for this evening." His smile didn't waver. "I received a confirmation email on Wednesday from your address. It specified 6 p.m. today, 14th floor." I gestured him inside, more out of politeness than anything else. "Let me check our system. Sometimes recruiting double books without updating the shared calendar." He followed me to my desk. I pulled up the applicant tracking system and searched his name. Nothing. I checked my sent folder. No confirmation emails for any Friday interviews. "What position did you apply for?" I asked. "Senior DevOps Engineer." The posting mentioned experience with cloud infrastructure migration. That was accurate. We had that reco open, but I handled the HR screening, not the technical rounds, and I definitely hadn't scheduled anyone for tonight. "I'm not seeing any record of an appointment," I said, keeping my tone apologetic. "Can you forward me that confirmation email?" "Of course." He pulled out his phone, tapped for a moment, then looked up. Sent. I refreshed my inbox. Nothing. Refreshed again. Still nothing. It might take a minute, he said. Your email system can be slow. I noticed that when I was coordinating with Rebecca about the server migration timeline. I looked at him. Rebecca was our IT director. The server migration had been a massive project we'd just completed last month. It wasn't exactly secret, but it wasn't something we advertised externally either. You know Rebecca? I asked. We corresponded during the application process. She mentioned the migration was causing some delays in interview scheduling. Very understanding about it. That didn't make sense. Rebecca didn't coordinate interviews, but he said it so casually, like it was established fact. And she mentioned that David was moving to the infrastructure team, he continued, which is part of why this position opened up. My stomach did something small and cold. David's lateral move had been announced internally 3 days ago. It wasn't on our website. It wasn't in the job posting. How do you know about David's transfer? I asked. He looked at me like I'd asked something obvious. It was in the follow-up email. The one explaining the role's expanded responsibilities. There was no follow-up email. I would have written it. I stood up. I think there's been some kind of miscommunication. I'm happy to reschedule through proper channels, but I don't have anything set up for tonight. I drove 40 minutes downtown, he said. His voice was still pleasant, but something in it had flattened. The parking garage charges $12. I took time off from my current position. I understand, and I apologize for the confusion, but I can't conduct an interview that isn't in our system. He didn't move, just looked at me with that same pleasant expression. Maybe just a brief preliminary discussion, he said, since I'm already here. 15 minutes. The fluorescent lights hummed above us. I became aware of how empty the floor was, how the windows were dark mirrors reflecting the overhead lights, how I couldn't hear anyone else in the building. I can't do that, I said, but if you submit your application through our portal, I'll make sure it gets priority review. I walked toward the door, expecting him to follow. He did, but slowly, and when I glanced back, he was looking at the photos on the wall, our team pictures. The company org chart we kept posted for visitors. That's Jennifer, right? He said, pointing. She mentioned she was hiring for her team too. Jennifer was our VP of people. She reported to me. Her hiring plans weren't public. I opened the door and held it. The elevators are this way. He walked past me into the hallway. The lights hummed louder out here, or maybe I was just noticing it more. Our footsteps echoed on the tile. He stayed close, just slightly behind my right shoulder. I could hear his breathing. At the elevator bank, I pressed the down button. We waited. The display showed the elevator was on the second floor, climbing slowly. 3, 4, 5. I really think we should talk, he said. I have specific ideas about your infrastructure vulnerabilities. You can include those in your application, I said. 6, 7, 8. He shifted his position, moving to stand between me and the hallway we'd just come from. Not blocking me exactly, but positioned. The elevator dinged. 12, 13. The doors opened. I stepped in and pressed the button for the parking garage level. He stepped in beside me. I should have said something. Should have told him I'd see him out. But the doors were already closing. We rode down in silence. The elevator was too small. I could smell his cologne, something expensive. Which level are you parked on? He asked. I'm fine, thanks, I said. I'm on P2 as well, he said, though I hadn't told him. The doors opened. The parking garage was concrete and shadow, half empty on a Friday night. My car was near the far wall. I walked toward it, keeping my pace normal, casual, like nothing was wrong. His footsteps echoed behind me, steady, exactly 3 paces back. I slowed down. He slowed down. I sped up slightly. He matched it. I had a few questions about the benefits package, he called out. The email mentioned health coverage but didn't specify dental. I didn't answer. My car was 30 feet away. 20. I pulled my keys from my pocket. Also wanted to clarify the remote work policy, he said, same pleasant tone. Since I noticed you live on Riverside Drive, the commute would be. I stopped walking, turned around. He was exactly 3 paces behind me, hands in his pockets, that same professional smile. "How do you know where I live?" I asked. "It was in your email signature," he said. "The one with your contact information." My signature had my office number, not my address. I saw the stairwell door about 15 feet to my left, the red exit sign glowing above it. "I need to grab something from my office," I said. "I'll have to catch up with you later." I walked toward the stairwell, not running but moving with purpose. Behind me, his footsteps continued, same pace, same distance. I reached the door and pulled it open. The stairwell was concrete and echoes. I let the door close behind me and immediately pulled out my phone. Our building had a security app for after-hours escorts. I opened it with shaking hands and requested assistance, parking level 2, stairwell C. Through the small window in the door, I could see him standing near the entrance to the garage, looking around, not at the door, just waiting. I kept the door cracked an inch, watching. He pulled out his phone, checked it, put it away, checked his watch, looked around again. Security arrived 8 minutes later. 2 guards. I explained there was someone following me, described him, pointed through the window. The garage was empty. They walked me to my car anyway, checked the area, no one. They asked if I wanted to file a report. I said I'd think about it. I drove home with my doors locked and my phone in my lap. On Monday, I asked IT to pull the confirmation email he'd mentioned. They found it, sent Wednesday at 2:17 p.m. from my email address while I was in a meeting. Except I hadn't sent it. The headers showed it came from an external server, spoofed to look internal. The resume attached had no photo, but I remembered his face clearly. We pulled the garage surveillance footage from Friday evening. The cameras showed me walking alone to my car, stopping, turning around to face nothing, walking to the stairwell. No one else was there. Story number 3. Towel window. I pushed my shopping cart through the light rain toward my car, the wheels squeaking against the wet pavement. It was that grey time between day and night when the parking lot lights were just starting to flicker on. I'd only grabbed a few things for dinner, nothing heavy, but my shoulders ached anyway. Everything ached lately. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks ago, and I was still learning how to buy groceries for 1 person instead of 2. I'd parked near the cart return, close to the store entrance. Smart, I'd thought. Safe. But now there was a white tow truck idling right beside the return area, its engine rumbling low and steady. Diesel exhaust mixed with the smell of wet asphalt. The rain was light, more of a mist really, but it blurred the storefronts in the distance and made the parking lot feel bigger and emptier than it was. A man in a reflective safety vest stepped out from behind the truck as I approached. He was maybe 40, average height, with a baseball cap pulled low. Nothing remarkable about him. That is what I told myself. "Ma'am, this your vehicle?" He pointed at my Honda. "Yes, is something wrong? You are parked in a loading zone. See the yellow markings?" He gestured at the pavement near my front tire. I squinted through the rain. There were faded yellow lines, barely visible, half worn away by weather and time. I had not noticed them when I parked. "Oh, I am so sorry. I did not see those. I will move it right now." "Too late for that. It has been called in already. I have to tow it." His tone was flat, matter-of-fact, not angry, but not friendly either. My stomach dropped. A towing fee would be at least $200. Money I did not have to waste right now. "Please, I just got here 20 minutes ago. Can I just move it? I did not realize." "I understand, but I have my orders. You will need to sign some paperwork first before I hook it up." Standard procedure. He turned and walked toward the truck cab, expecting me to follow. I stood there with my cart, rain speckling my glasses. This felt wrong, but I could not say why. People get towed from grocery stores all the time. I probably had parked illegally. The signage in this lot was confusing. There were weird diagonal spaces near the cart returns and painted curbs that did not match the signs. I had assumed I was fine. I left my cart and followed him toward the passenger side of the truck. He opened the door and gestured inside. "Forms are in here, out of the rain. Just need your signature and license." I stopped a few feet from the open door. The cab was dark inside, and I could not see any clipboard or paperwork on the seat. The dome light was not on. I looked at the side of the truck. It was white, but the paint was peeling in long strips. There was no company name, no phone number, no logo, nothing. "What company are you with?" I asked. "We contract with the plaza." He patted the doorframe. "Come on, it will just take a second." My heart started beating faster. "I am a teacher. I have spent 30 years learning to read situations, to sense when something is off in a classroom. This was off. I would rather just take a picture of the paperwork with my phone out here. It does not work like that. I need a signature." I took a step back. "Let me call the store manager first. I want to make sure I actually was parked illegally." His expression did not change, but something shifted in his posture. He straightened up. "Ma'am, you are wasting my time." That was when I heard the metallic scrape behind me. I turned. A second man had climbed down from the truck bed. He was bigger than the first, wearing a dark hoodie under a work jacket, and he was holding a pair of tow chains, heavy ones. He did not say anything. He just stood there, positioned directly between me and the store entrance, about 15 feet away. The rain seemed louder suddenly. I could hear it hissing against the pavement, drumming on the truck roof. My groceries were still in the cart 10 feet behind me. My purse was in the cart too, my phone. "Just get in and sign," the first man said. His voice was still calm. Too calm. I looked at the store. The entrance seemed impossibly far away now, across a stretch of empty wet asphalt. There were no other shoppers in sight. The windows were fogged from the inside. I could see movement behind the glass, blurred shapes, but no one was looking out. The second man shifted his weight, the chains clinking softly. I ran. I did not think about it. I just dropped everything and ran toward the store, my shoes slapping against the wet pavement. Behind me, I heard boots splashing, heavy and fast. I did not look back. The automatic doors were ahead, glowing yellow in the dusk, and I ran harder than I had run in years. My lungs burned, my knees screamed. I could hear them behind me, closer than they should be. The doors did not open. I slammed into them, palms flat against the glass, and they did not open. They were locked. It was only 6:30 in the evening and the doors were locked. I pounded on the glass, screaming, my voice hoarse and animal. Inside, a teenage employee looked up from his phone, startled. He just stared at me. "Open the door!" I screamed. "Please!" He did not move. He just stood there, frozen. I pounded harder, my fists aching, and finally he ran toward the customer service desk. An older woman in a manager vest came to the door, fumbling with keys. I could see the two men in the reflection of the glass, stopped about 20 feet behind me, just standing there, watching. The lock clicked. The door opened. I fell inside, literally collapsed onto the tile floor, gasping. The manager crouched beside me, asking if I was okay, if I needed an ambulance. I could not speak. I just pointed outside. The white truck was already moving. It rolled slowly past the entrance, the two men visible in the cab, and then it turned out of the lot and disappeared onto the main road. Without my car. They left without my car. The police came. I sat in the manager's office with a blanket around my shoulders, shaking, while a young officer took my statement. The manager, a woman named Diane, offered to pull the security footage. She had already checked the parking lot. My car was still there, parked exactly where I had left it. My groceries were scattered on the pavement beside my cart. We watched the footage on her small office monitor. The timestamp showed the white truck entering the lot at 5:58 in the evening. It drove slowly down one row, then another. It passed a minivan parked crooked across two spaces. It passed a truck in a clearly marked handicap spot with no placard. It circled the entire lot, then exited. At 6:04, it came back. It made another slow loop, passing dozens of cars, and left again. At 6:11, it returned a third time. This time it drove directly to my car and stopped. The driver got out. He stood beside the cart return for almost 2 minutes, just watching the store entrance, before I came out with my groceries. The officer asked Diane to email him the footage. He said they would look for the truck, but without plates or a company name, it would be difficult. He said I was lucky. He said I did the right thing by running. I drove home in the dark, my hands shaking on the wheel. I kept checking my mirrors. Every set of headlights behind me felt wrong. When I pulled into my apartment complex, I sat in the car for 10 minutes, watching, before I finally went inside. I still shop at that grocery store. I do not have another option nearby. But I never park near the cart return anymore. And I do not go at dusk. I wait until the lot is full and bright, with families and couples and noise. Even then I watch. I always watch.